Y'all, let's talk about my D&D game. Hey everybody, Ron here. So today's session was really interesting. Um, Everybody was here for once. First time in a while that we had all four of the players here and all four of the characters. Cat's player has been missing. We have been running with a substitute character for the past couple of sessions, but the player actually wasn't here, so it counted, but it kind of didn't count. So we did play last week, but we stopped at a certain point because I needed the player to be here. Anyway, so the player was here, and I had a certain plan, and the session started off with them leaving the room. Twinga opened the door, and a stone golem waiting for them. So it was initiative right away. So we started off pretty strong with the fight. There was a stone golem. Some beetle swarms came in and were a nuisance, a complication to the situation. The main threat, of course, was the stone golem, but it was a pretty dynamic fight because the players had to figure out what to do about the beetle swarms that were swarming the melee characters. And so that was a cool fight. And I had a plan to. I think things went pretty much the way that I expected them to go. After they took a rest, they proceeded in the dungeon. They got to the doors where the sanctuary, where the Tooth of Vvavraak was, and there was a double doors, and on each door was a copper bust of a black dragon head. Each one of them had a riddle for the party to figure out, but ultimately Keth had to be the one that provided the answer. There was one, they struggled with it for a little bit, but what Keth's player did was he turned into a giant eagle, which was not exactly the answer that I was looking for, but I could see where he could come to that conclusion, so I just gave it to him. And then the other one, they struggled with. It was a poem, and there were some clues, and the answer was morning, M-O-R-N-I-N-G, and M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G. It was a homonym, and I ruled that, particularly with a roll, that the characters were smart enough to realize that the answer was a homonym. Actually, it was cool. The person that came up with the answer was Keth's player, and he was the one that needed to come up with the answer anyway, and so I was really proud of that. Those riddles I did not make up. Actually, one of my many resources that I have accumulated over the years is I have a deck of riddles and traps, and so I just pulled 2 riddles. Actually, originally I was going to use 3 riddles, but I decided to pare it down to 2 riddles because 3 riddles would have been obnoxious. These were tough enough as it was. That turned out to be good. Keth rightly concluded that he was the only one that could cross the threshold and go into the sanctuary where the Tooth of Vvavraak was, and waiting for him was Uloth. Uloth is an orc druid that was mummified and is the guardian of the whole temple of Tarndral. She congratulated Keth for getting that far, and then she questioned Keth on his purposes. Now here's where I got to talk about some very interesting things. A few sessions ago, Septimus's player decided that he wanted to change classes. So he multi-classed into Warlock. His character took on a Fey Lord as a patron. If you remember, I have mentioned that Septimus's mother was terminally ill, and that she signed over the mansion to Septimus, and Septimus owns the mansion now. But then she took whatever remaining money that she had. She was going to travel a little bit, see other family throughout Berlin, and live out the rest of her days that way. Well, Septimus was not completely satisfied with that. I mean, it was his mother after all. What ultimately drove him to seek out the Moonlit King, who is a Fey Lord that Septimus follows. The proxy that the Fey Lord sent said that Septimus's mother could be cured if he found an item for them. The first part of his mission was to find the Tooth of Vvavraak. The Tooth of Vvavraak is a gatekeeper relic. So that's something, of course, Keth would be very interested in obtaining, especially since that was one of his character goals. He really aspired to find a relic of his order, and he also aspired to advance in his order. So these were two things that were very important to Keth, and it seemed like Keth's player had forgotten about that for a while, because when it came to the point where both characters discovered that, Keth's player and Septimus' player discovered that they were headed in the same direction, going for the same item, which could have brought party conflict. Keth's player just decided, hey, you know what? We'll get it, and I'll just give it to you. And honestly, I was a little bit disappointed, but I was like, whatever. We'll proceed with this. This is what I have. This is what I have planned. This is what I have planned. This is what I laid out. That's the direction that they wanted to go. So we're playing towards that. Back to this. So Keth is in the sanctuary with the Guardian. She questioned Keth's motives, and Keth said he was completely and totally forthright. Up front, he was like, I want this tooth so I have a noble purpose. I'm going to, give it to a friend so his mother can be healed. And this was not the answer that the Guardian was looking for. The Guardian was looking for something more along the lines of the purpose, the goals of the gatekeeper druids, and they defend Eberron against aberrations and other threats to Eberron. And this is not what Keth said. She deemed Keth not worthy, and so she summoned some skeletons, and it was initiative. And they fought, the players, the party fought a bunch of skeletons and the mummy, and somewhere in the process, I don't know what Keth's player was thinking, he turned into a horse, he ran down the short hall, and he went to kick Septimus' retainer out of the room. Septimus' player understood that Keth's player was doing something in character, although the characters did not understand the purposes. But of course, in characters, his character rightly was confused. Everybody was confused at the table. What was going on? Of course, Septimus' retainer fought back, but they were still fighting skeletons at the same time. Septimus, seeing that Keth may be perhaps betraying the party, or at least betraying him, decided that he would take things into his own hands. So he tried to stealthily get his homunculus to fly and get the Tooth of Vvavraak. But what Septimus did not know, and no one else knew, but Keth suspected, was that only a gatekeeper druid could touch the Tooth of Vvavraak. So of course, when the homunculus touched the Tooth of Vvavraak, it did a whole bunch of damage, destroyed the homunculus, and causing mental and physical distress to Septimus. At that point, Septimus' retainer pulled him out of the room. Keth gave a command for, after they defeated the mummy, because there was nothing more he could do about that, to tell the skeletons to stand down. And I ruled that worked, because I ruled that the orc druid mummy was a gatekeeper druid, and since the skeletons were there under the order of a gatekeeper druid, that since Keth was the only one there, they would now follow him. So that's what they did. So the combat stopped. There was some discussion. Actually, somewhere during the chaos, the doors to the saint that area was closed, and Septimus was outside. So he communed with his Fey Lord. The Fey Lord sent his proxy, Tressum, out there. So I need to backtrack. So during the fight, Marv, Septimus, and Septimus' retainer ended up outside of the sanctuary when the doors closed. So they were outside, and then Keth and Twinger were inside. So the party was split at that point. And so that's when Keth communed with his Fey Lord. Keth and Twinger was inside the sanctuary for a while. Keth trying to figure out what to do. Didn't really come with any answers. So they left. So they came out, and at this point, they were greeted by the Tressum that is the proxy of the Moonlit King. And he said the Moonlit King required the Tooth of Vvavraak. And of course, at this point, Keth was like, no, he can't have it. But, Keth offered, I'll let him use it, and when he's done, I'll go with you. And when the Moonlit King is done with it, then, I can take it back with me. That is not what the Tressum was there to hear. And Septimus's player knew that, and so he left with saying this, that the Moonlit King will ensure that this transaction is completed one way or the other. And the implication was that the Moonlit King would be sending agents for them. That's where we ended the session. Keth's player doesn't know what he wants to do, which I understand. There was a lot of back and forth between all the players, and Marv's player was a little confused for a while. But like, it was a lot of fun. And for a moment, I was wondering if will this be it? Will this be it? The end of the campaign? Of course, I am dealing with some adults and mature players, and it was just great to watch some real inter-party conflict that was drama brought upon by character goals, and me basically setting up a situation just to see how that would go. This is what I play for. That's one of the things that I enjoy the most about being a dungeon master, being a game master. The players are totally fine. I'm really interested to see what they're going to do ultimately with Keth's players going to decide and go from there. So now they have the children of Sainthrax, the Beholder, gunning for them. Sainthrax's ult is really threatened by the players now, so they're totally gunning for them, and I anticipate that will come to a head really soon. They have the Lord of Blades and his Warforged followers gunning after them, and now they have the Moonlit King and his face servants gunning after them. So there's a lot going on, and we'll see how that all turns out. I was really eager to talk about the session, so that's why I had to sit down and record this as soon as possible. We should be playing again next week. I have no idea what I'm going to prep. I guess I'll just prep for a couple of different things to happen and see which direction that they go in, or they might go in a completely different direction. I don't know. I just know that this is what D&D is all about. Hey everybody, I'm back and I'm bald, and yes, it is the same day, and yes, it is the same shirt, but I was shaving my head and I had some more thoughts on the session, so I decided to come back. So one of the things that I was trying to do with this session was shore up some weaknesses, namely the Barbarians AC. I had some stuff in the session I planned on giving them. There was a staff for the Woodlands, for the Druid. There was a wand of the War Mage, I believe it was +2. That was for either Marv or Septimus, but more likely Marv, because Marv is a little bit short on magic items. And then finally, I had Mithril Half-Plate +2, which is medium armor, which is something that the Barbarian could have worn and would have improved his armor class. But with the skeletons in the Sanctuary, I had have one of them with Mithril Half-Plate on, and the Staff of the Woodlands was wielded by the Orc Druid Mummy, Uloth, and they didn't take any of that stuff, and they certainly didn't take any of the valuables, the gems, the pottery, and all the art pieces that would have been worth money had to taken it out, because Keth's player decided that, rightly so, that this was a holy place, and they should not defile it or take anything from it. So that's what they did. Well, except for the Tooth of Vvavraak, of course. But they took the Tooth of Vvavraak and left everything else. And so now the plan that I had to get the Barbarian some armor so that he can improve his armor class a little bit, that fell through the cracks. So now I'm going to have to find another way to get him an armor boosting item. And I was trying to reward the Druid a little bit too, but we'll see about that. These types of things happen in D&D games. You have these plans as a DM, and even how are you going to get the stuff to the guys, and they swerve on you, they do something different, and you know what, and I can't help, but be happy about it, because the reason why they left the stuff was for a role-playing reason. Quite frankly, I think that's pretty cool, and it was yet another surprise, and that's why I run this game. That's why I run role-playing games, because that kind of stuff happens, and it's pretty entertaining. Once, when I first started running role-playing games, started with second edition D&D, it would be able to story time. I would make these plans. I would plan these dungeons, and I'd have these other plans, and the players invariably would like ignore them or just go around them or circumvent them somehow, and it would frustrate me. But at some point, I relaxed, just released control of the player's directions and just let them do their thing, and reacted and started setting up situations. And not only did I enjoy that, I believe that my DMing skills got better as a result. So I just wanted to record just a little addendum to the session video, because I was just thinking about that, and I wanted to add that. And when I wanted to, purpose of me sharing these videos is not only to talk about the sessions, but what happened and how it affected my my planning as a DM, and maybe with some lessons I learned. So there's that. Back to the video. So that was it. I hope you guys enjoy hearing about that, and I will see you next time. See you later.